Say something to it. It's real late.
Yep.
The monthly board meeting of the Shell Rock River Watershed District for June 10th, 2025 is called to order. Please call roll.
Manager Bakken.
Aye.
Manager Gore.
Aye.
Manager Kramer.
Aye.
Manager Brzezinski.
Aye.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Delta.
Aye. Item number 2, public forum. I don't see anyone from public to speak. So we'll go on to item number 3. Approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Mr. Chair, staff has no additions, corrections, or deletions at this time.
We'll have an approval the way it is then. Suski, do I have a second?
Second.
I have Keith. Discussion? Hearing none, we call roll.
Manager Bakken.
Aye.
Manager Gore.
Aye.
Manager Kramer.
Aye.
Manager Brzezinski.
Aye.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Delta.
Aye. Item 4, the consent agenda. Following items will be acted upon without discussion in accordance with the staff recommendation and associated documents unless a manager requests opportunity for discussion. A, minutes of the May 9th, 2025 Shell Rock River Watershed District Dredge Committee meeting. B, minutes of the May 13th, 2025 Shell Rock River Watershed District Regular Board meeting. C, minutes of the June 5th, 2025 Shell Rock River Watershed District Personnel Committee meeting. D, May 2025 Treasury Report subject to audit. E, 2025 Project Fund Treasury Report subject to audit. F, authorized payment of claims. And G, authorized payment project fund disbursements. Do I have a motion to approve?
So.
By Manager Kramer, do I have a second?
Second.
By Manager Bakken, any discussion? Hearing none, please call roll.
Manager Bakken.
Aye.
Manager Gore.
Aye.
Manager Kramer.
Aye.
Manager Brzezinski.
Aye.
Manager Lee.
Aye.
Manager Delta.
Aye, motion carried. Item number 5, natural resource technician, Mike Buckles.
Trying to get a couple things today, our water monitoring update, all the buoys are out. We did have one buoy flip over side that's actually in and out for repair. We had to shorten the keel on the buoy to make it work in Bancroft Bay, and that crazy wind we had last month was able to flip it over, so got that taken apart and snapped in. We did move the one from Main Bay back to Bancroft, so we are still getting those readings from that area. And we should know in the next week what the repair will be and when we'll have that one back. I compared a little data from Fountain and Hubbard Lee Lake from last spring to this spring. On Fountain Lake, we're actually seeing over a foot of Secchi difference, so we have more clarity this year. It's over a foot difference than it was this week of last year. And our water temperatures are 4 to 6 degrees cooler than they were at this point last year. I think with the lack of flooding we had this year, we're seeing better water quality. Hubbard Lee is about the same. Secchi's were actually averaged the exact same as they did for this week last year, and the temps were about 4 degrees off. Water quality of the streams is a little bit better than it was last year, I think, just because we were at this point we're post flood. Yeah, we're working with ISG on that database. We should have something this week for the tablet for the interface for remote monitoring to get rid of the pen and paper. So we'll be trialing that this week, and then by the middle of next month, correct? They were gonna have
I think so.
the database actually interface up and running.
Good.
Next is I have a curly leaf update. I'm very pleased with the job that Solitude did in the application and the areas they did it. It's perfect. There's no curly leaf coverage or anywhere that they had put the chemical down. It is very apparent the areas they did it now. You can see a pretty distinct line where they started and stopped. So I don't see any issue with possibly using them again next year and then applying for a larger area in the permit. We would permit it as the entire lake instead of 2 separate areas. We could get an increase in surface area that we could treat. I think that would make a big difference. And then an update on the Goose Lake fish barrier. I'm working with the engineer in Poland, so there's a little time to change road. We're just doing the final touches on making sure the cables we have in place from the old barrier are going to be able to support the new one, or if we're gonna have to remove some of the cables from the conduit to run new ones down through the barrier. We're doing everything we can to reuse that existing structure and existing cabinet instead of having to put something else on the golf course. So they're not used to setting control blocks so far away from the barrier, so the engineer is doing some tweaks on his end and so we're gonna get him the info he needs, and once that's done, they will start assembly and then it will ship out of Poland.
Out of Poland.
Yeah, so when they get the plans done, it's usually about 90 days before we would receive it, so. We're hoping we can get it shipped here in the next couple weeks. That's all I had.
Any questions for Mike?
With that buoy, is that by any chance under warranty yet, or?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay,
We just had, and it's considered waterproof, and I had it assembled as the book said and everything, and when we got to retrieve it, it had definitely not maintained its waterproofness. So. We, emailed the tech I've been working with YSI, sent it in, and they're gonna check it out, see what needs to be replaced, but.
okay. Then yeah, I was out fishing and you can definitely see the curly leaf has been knocked down pretty good, so very noticeable.
And I've been seeing it even in the streams this year, we're seeing more of it than I have in the past year. In some of the areas, and up on Bancroft, Courtney had the pleasure of coming up there with me last week. It's pretty thick up there. It's hard to even get the mud boat through, it's so thick up there. So hopefully we can work with Solitude again and get a better permit next time. Get some more handle on that stuff.
So compared to what we treated this year, how much more, would that be twice as much for next year?
If we include Bancroft, it'd be a little over twice as much. If we just. It would add probably 8 to 12 acres extra if we did everything we tried to permit this year. But I think I would push for the whole shoreline area of Edgewater and Main Bay, if we're not at that point with Bancroft yet. So we'd probably increase by, probably close to double for next year.
If let's say it's Bancroft is being dredged and it's still overrun with curly leaf, or even if there's some curly leaf, would the dredge basically grind that out and then the nodules filter back down into the lake from the sludge and then just proliferate massively from that? Is that something we need to be concerned about?
I don't believe so. I think it can grow off of the fragments of the leaves, but most of it is gonna come from that seed bank in the soil, and if we can get that dredged out of there, I think that would make a huge difference in the problem. We get rid of that whatever 2 feet of seed bed that's underneath there, get that out of there. You'll probably have some residual from the fragments, but nothing like we would see with that seed bed.
I think what I mean is that as that seed bed gets sucked into the sediment and then making its way back into the creek as it dewaters through the weir borders.
I would think that the seed pods would settle out. I don't know if we have that. I don't think they would make it down that far. I think they would settle out in that seed bed.
So I think if you look at the previous dredging that we did on Edgewater Bay and Main Bay, there was a distinct line where we quit dredging to where we couldn't dredge because of the setbacks from the shore. And everywhere the dredge was able to dredge, we actually removed those turions or the seed pods. And they pretty much get buried in the CDFs. So we don't really worry about them coming back to reseed in the lake or to repopulate. But we do remove them. The areas that we have identified in the permitted dredge in Bancroft would remove a large, probably almost 80% of the curly leaf that's in Bancroft right now, as far as what we have mapped from 2024. So I feel confident that the dredging would take care of a large portion of that, if we aren't too worried about it seeding after we're done dredging.
Yeah.
What was your stickiness readings and Fountain and Albany Lake?
So Fountain, as of this week in 2024, we were at 2.3 feet This year we were at 3.3 feet. Yep, and then Elberly was 3.3 last year and 3.3.
3.3.
So that was the average of last year on Elberly in Main Bay. I was able to see cleared bottom out there, and that was just shy of 5 feet of water, and I could see the second lane on the bottom.
Thank you.
Anything else? That will go on to item 6. Project and program manager Courtney Phillips.
Thank you. The first item I have is a motion to award an engineer for the Fountain Lake Channel restoration. We put that out on Quest and we received 3 engineering firms that submitted proposals. The first one was Bolton and Mink, and they came in at $359,000. Bar came in at $496,000, and Geosyntex was working with ISG, and they came in at $1,034,000. So we had a scoring rubric that included things like cost, project team, project experience. There's, about 4 or 5 different grading categories, and myself, along with staff from the city of Albert Lea, went through and ranked all of the proposals. And the engineering firm that we are looking to award our work and services to is Bar Engineering. We understand that they are not the lowest, but they also were going to be taking the engineering a little bit further than Bolton and Mink, who was the lowest. And they also had the best project experience that was relevant to the project that we are doing now. And they scored the highest unanimously between our office and the city's office. So we are looking to award the engineering services to Bar Engineering.
Do I have a motion? By Manager Kramer, do I have a second? By Manager Lee, any discussion? Hearing none, please call roll.
Manager Bachman,
Aye.
Manager Thor,
Aye.
Manager Kramer,
Aye.
Manager Paczynski,
All right.
Manager Lee, Manager Delger.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you. Super excited to get that project in. So that's going to be a big one for the city of Alberley and ourselves. Yep. So next is project updates. I just wanted to let you know that our Lessard Sam's phase 14 that we applied for last year has gone through the legislative process. The governor signed the bill, and we are going to be getting $2,141,000 out of that grant. Part of that is going to go to the AMA restoration of those ponds to turn them into fishing ponds and also do wetland restoration work out there. We're also going to be partnering with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to do some buckthorn management on parcels. What else do we have? There's also going to be some oak savanna management, and there's a little bit of stream bank restoration work that's proposed just north of the Panicum Prairie site. When we were doing the stream restoration down there, some neighboring landowners just north of there let us know that they had erosion issues taking place on their property as well, and so we included funding for that. So exciting to get another good chunk of change from Lessard Sam's. Additional updates that I have: the Panicum Prairie Wetland Restoration Project. ACM came down about 3 weeks ago and completed all the punch list items. And so we are going to be paying final retainage for that project, and it'll be fully complete. Larson Contracting was the one who was awarded the work for the Bancroft wetland restoration. They were just finishing up the last mowing this week. It was late last week. And we are also going to be paying retainage on that project. Those were the last 2 that were needed to be completed for our phase 9 of funding. And we will be closing that one out after July when final bills are paid. So that grant will be fully expended, and that means we'll be closing out 3 Lessard Sam's grants this year. We did phase 8, 9, and 10, and 8 and 10 are already completed. So moving right along with the projects. Next, I wanted to update that we had our watershed-based implementation funding that we get through Bowser. We had our cover crop application period that just closed June 3rd. And we had our highest request for cover crop acres to date. We had 11 different producers putting in cover crop requests that totaled over $383,000. We only had 172 to appropriate. So we did some creative thinking yesterday at a meeting. The SWCD is going to has their own funding that they can use to fund 3 of them. And unfortunately, we did have to remove 2 that we just simply did not have money for, but otherwise we were able to fund everyone else that applied. So it was a good problem to have.
We've seen a lot more of that out there. A lot more.
And a lot of them are, they were new producers. They had never applied cover crops before, and a lot of them wanted to do the multi-species instead of the species, and yeah, so that was good to see. So we're getting those dollars spent as well.
Courtney, I think an important piece of that is the two that didn't qualify, did not have a complete application
Mhm.
either, so that was why they kind of kicked out of the process.
Yeah, and we did reach out to them to try to see if they would take just like the cost of cover crop seed, because their application was 135,000 because it was 750 acres over 3 years with a multi-species. And they weren't looking to reduce it to a single species, and they also weren't really willing to reduce the acres, and they weren't really willing to just take the cost of seed per acre. So it was kind of like an all or nothing, but unfortunately we weren't. I mean, 135,000 would have taken all of our money. So we did, it was a difficult decision. We had all staff kind of sifting through, and yeah, it basically came down to them not willing to budge and then also not having a complete application. However, I do want to state that Lindsay said at the SWCD, they will work with them through their office, because the SWCD does get additional funding for cover crops, to try and work with a producer to see if there's something that works. So it's not an end loss for them. There might still be an option for them, just not through our watershed-based implementation funding. Mhm. And the last item I have is a street sweeping study. I printed out a map that kind of shows one of the outcomes that came from the street sweeping study that has been completed, that was funded through our RAPS, or Watershed Restoration and Protection Strategy funding. But this was kind of like the meat and potatoes of the document, was taking all the different layers through the canopy cover, the street cover, the density of the canopies, and looking at the stormwater system and where there are inlets. And it created this heat map of a high priority and low priority for the biggest bang for your buck in street sweeping, when and where. And they kind of determined that the sweet spot for cost benefit of pound per phosphorus removed is 3 sweepings per year. But this definitely helps the city in determining where to go first. I don't know if John wants to add any more to that on the street sweeping study, but yeah. So if you are interested in seeing the whole document, we can provide it, but this is just kind of like a snapshot of one of the good maps that is among many that are in that document. And that's all that I had.
Any questions for Courtney? Good job. Okay, we'll go on to item number 7, Administrator Andy Henschel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item is a motion to approve the Personnel Committee's recommendation. This recommendation is based on the performance review for all of the staff here for the Shell Rock River Watershed District. I'm quickly just going to go through what my recommendations were to the Personnel Committee. Again, we had the Education and Outreach Coordinator and Administrative Assistant. Based on the performance review, we had a 2 to 3.5% increase. My recommendation was a 3% increase for the financial tech. The range based on the performance review again was 0 to 1%. Again, Administrator recommended a 1% increase. And then the Program and Project Manager, this range was based on their performance review was 3 to 4%. The Administrator recommended a 3% increase. And then the Technical Specialist the range based on a performance review was 1 to 2%, and I recommended a 2%. So the committee then looked at my recommendations. They also then did my review. I believe the recommendation in the Personnel Committee's meeting notes was a 2% increase for the Administrator. Then we talked about health insurance recommendations, which we asked for no increase in 2025. And then just to give you a little bit of an overview, right now with the Administrator's recommendations, if implemented, the personnel-based salary would increase. I think I have 9,500 or 9,502. Carmen did recheck my math and came up to actually 8,030.02. So That is the correct number. We also talked about the paid family and medical leave premium. Again, this is the new state requirement for the Minnesota paid family and medical leave. I put in here what we expect the cost to be in 2026. That is 2,885 75. My recommendation to the committee at that time was that the district pay the full amount of the 2,885.75. However, we will not vote on this. This is for budgetary purposes. Final vote will be on this, will be by the December 15th deadline for our levy. And then lastly, planning for 2026. Again, I recommend that in December 2025, prior to finalizing the budget for 26, we evaluate the appropriate cost of living adjustments to be considered for January of 26. So I also offered you, or in your handouts, you have the Personnel Committee's recommendations. They did align with my recommendations. So again, the only thing at this time that we're taking care of are the percent increases for staff based on performance review. So again, looking for a motion to approve the Personnel Committee's recommendations for percentage increase for staff based on performance reviews.
That motion. No. Manager DeWard, who has second. Manager Lee, any discussion? Doing these reviews, it's gotta be difficult for Andy, for staff, because everyone does such a great job, and everything is already set out there, laid out there on how you score. Well, and it's 1 to 5. So 5 is perfect. So you look at that and go, right, only way you can take that 5 away is to find out something they didn't do right. That's hard to do, because the staff does a great job. Sure, I agree.
They do a great job.
But
Our water,
Kramer said before, says, well, maybe you're gonna just say that they're the best in the state.
yeah, I work with watersheds around the state and our staff, the projects you do, Andy's leadership. You are among, if not the best in the state, and staff on this watershed can look at this community and all the projects that you enact and accomplish, and your fingerprint is going to be on this community long after you're gone. I mean, your projects make a huge difference, very long-term quality of life, economic opportunities for the community. So staff, great job. You're very much appreciated by us as a board and by the community. I mean, we get, I think we all probably get compliments on what this watershed accomplishes. So, good job. You're very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call roll.
Manager Baca,
Aye.
Manager DeWard,
Aye.
Manager Kramer,
Aye.
Manager Pasuski,
Aye.
Manager Lee,
Aye.
Manager Delver.
Aye, carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item B is the Fulton Lake Restoration Project, East Main Bay and Bancroft Bay update. Just to give you a quick update of where we are with our permit. Again, we still have our limited permit with the DNR. That is exactly the same as we talked about for the last 2 months. I will also note that we do have our amendment that has been filed with the state of Minnesota. I will tell you also, though, why we do have that submitted, our appeal, why we do have that submitted. I have been trying to continue to negotiate with them to move this project forward into limit or to increase the scope of their limited permit. So you have a map in front of you. This is kind of the map that I am working off of. Again, this has not been approved by the board. This is a map that I am trying to, again, work with DNR to increase the scope of the dredged area in Bancroft Bay. To note, probably the biggest changes to this map compared to the limited permit that we have right now is this blue area here. This is that second large plume of phosphorus. So I wanted to include that. They did agree to that one, so that is it hasn't been officially added to our permit, but that has been officially talked about, discussed, and that's what they would give us. However, the red line there you see, that is what we are calling our deep water channel to get from the south to the north portion of Bancroft Bay. In our limited permit, that channel is set at 35 feet and a max depth of, I believe, 6 feet. However, in this amendment that I requested, that max channel is 55 feet. And I don't believe that we have a final for depth, just that we will not dredge what we consider natural bottom of the lake. The other changes are the two magenta lines. These magenta lines, again, are navigation channels. This is to allow everybody on that southwest side access to the deep water to be able to get out to the main lake. This channel, the magenta channel, which would include some of the red, was actually proposed by the DNR in one of their first maps that they presented to us. However, we have been asking for that area for the last probably about a month and a half. If you can see, and it does show on your map, they have these little green lines. You'll see they had one line coming down here, and they had one green line coming there. That's what they said they would be willing to do. Again, I said that's not enough. That doesn't help with our situation in those areas. So this is what I presented to them. I also presented to them. It's in here somewhere. Right in front of my face. So I also presented them this. This is the actual reasoning for why we justify our dredge design. So we've never had, this has all been just talked about back and forth between DNR. I actually submitted this as an actual amendment on MPARS. So this is actually part of our official permit process for an amendment. They have 15 days to respond. I believe we're on day 8. So we have about 7 more days to see if they are favorable to these changes. And this will be an official response on the Minnesota DNR's permitting website, which is called MPARS. So that's what I have submitted to date. If this is approved, then I will bring this back to the board to see if the board likes this. And if they do and they allow the amendment, we can then move forward. If you feel that we need to fight for a little bit more here and there, then we're still at where we're at today. So just want to let you know that. I know I have been negotiating without the board approval on this map. But these back and forths have been ongoing. So I can't, it's hard to bring you guys everything.
Use up there every day.
Yeah, so that's where we stand. So any questions on any of that?
Quite good.
No questions? I thought that for sure I'd have some questions on this.
Bring us the map.
So again, it's been a long and hard fought battle, and we're gonna continue to battle. Steph, I don't wanna put you on the spot. Do you wanna give us a little bit of update on the appeal? And basically what we've decided or what we have talked about with the attorney. I can't think of the firm's name right offhand that submitted the appeal for us.
Okay, yeah, so we are working with our outside counsel on the appeal. The appeal has been filed and DNR confirmed receipt. Now we are awaiting a follow-up from the administrative law judge's office, and so that will go through the administrative hearing process. What will happen is we will get, a letter from them. We have to confirm representation, do, for lack of a better way of putting it, some housekeeping. And then they will set a date for when this trial will occur. There is an option we learned from outside counsel to engage in some mediation prior to that, and we are very interested in continuing to try to work with DNR to find an amicable solution rather than everyone spending time, money, and expense to continue with the litigation process. So that was good news to know that the lines of communication can continue as we work through the appeal process. Of course, as we sit here today, we still can't bid anything or move the project any further on our end until the permit issues are resolved. Staff has been working very hard and in almost daily communications with engineers and with DNR staff, and hopefully we'll be able to find a resolution. Big picture, someone had asked last meeting and we talked about it, but just to kind of put it back into perspective, if we go down the full appeal process, we're talking probably 4 to 6 months. It's not like we're talking weeks. We're talking a long time. We will lose this entire dredge season if we go through the full appeal.
Thank you, Steph.
Yes.
Any questions on any of that? All right, moving on to item C. This is an update on the CDF. The CDF is pretty much, I would say 95% complete. There's still a few final punch list items that need to be taken care of. They were able to get it seeded roughly 3 weeks ago. The site looks actually tremendous. It looks really good. The seed took off really nicely. So my fears are somewhat, settled down. I was worried about having big, heavy spring rains and having a bunch of erosion issues out there. We have had a few other areas where we beefed up some of the erosion control to reduce what I would call those high priority areas or highly erodible areas. So we did beef up some of that with some straw blankets. So we will see a little bit of a change order on some of that material. I'm also going to have him redo or re-rock some of the road, the main access point out to the weir on cell 1. So we'll see a change order for that as well. I'm going to have him put it all in one change order. So you'll be seeing a change order for that, but that's what those are for. It's for some increased stabilization with erosion control and some increase in improvement in the road access out there. But otherwise, we should be finalizing that project here in the next month. And I just want to hats off to the contractor. He's worked really diligently to get that project done, especially, with some of the adverse conditions. Dealing with dredge material, I think, was new to him as well, but the contractor did well, and the site looks tremendous out there. I'm really happy with how it ended up out there. So with that, any questions on the CDF site?
How was the overall with the neighbors' perception and stuff like that? Like for a while, we were running later evenings. One homeowner nearby that one of my kids' sports, their families was talking to me about the dust in their house was just incredible from the, from the movement of all that dust. It was so light and fluffy. Have there been any complaints or anything like that beyond?
No, I mean, once we heard a complaint, we really tried to work with the contractor to, control whatever issues we could. We did, during the dry spells of last year, we really worked with him on watering the site, making sure that, we were wetting the roads, the travel roads, to reduce that dust issue. He worked pretty late into the fall last year. It was pretty much freeze up, so we couldn't really shape all the stockpile areas. But again, this year he got out there the spring, reshaped all of those. They look 100 times better than what they looked like last fall. And again, getting that seed down was important. to get some grass and some stabilization. But I have not heard any complaints, as far as right now, about the site, so.
Yeah.
We try to take them, as we get them, we don't wanna make it rough for neighbors out there either, so we try to work with them as we're going through the project.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, last time I have is board meeting appointments. I will talk with the county. I believe they do have a ad in the Tribune that will run twice for board appointments. Up this year are Mick, Al, and Dan. So if you guys are interested, you can get your letter into the county to stay on the board. Otherwise, I think we're looking at swearing those new appointments in on our meeting in July. I believe the county is going to appoint them on their first board meeting in July. So again, to the managers that are up, thank you for your dedication to this job. It can sometimes be thankless. It's an admirable position that you guys hold, and the things that you allow staff to do to improve this watershed district. I believe staff all thanks you for your hard work as well. Again, like Brad said, we are a very proactive watershed district. We have projects that a lot of other watershed districts don't even touch or want to touch. And I think, again, that's a unique opportunity that staff has, and we don't have that opportunity if it's not for you guys, allowing us to pursue those. So again, thanks to the board managers. So please get your letters in to the county board if you are interested to continue in your glorious work here. So with that is all I have, Mr. Chair.
The staff here, you guys make it easy for us board members. It's fun to be here. It's entertaining and watch you do what you do and what you know, and so that makes it a whole lot easier.
I do have one more thing. A huge shout out to Courtney on the Lassard Sams.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Courtney has brought in millions of dollars in her role as program and project manager with Lassard Sams, and just her and Carmen's thoroughness on getting the grants closed out, not having any hassles, meeting all the state statutes. But again, phase 14, bringing another $2.4 million to the district to do these projects is an amazing work by our staff, and especially Courtney on the Lassard Sam stuff.
Yes,
So,
agreed.
I think sometimes it goes by because we do it every year and it just happens. It sometimes gets overlooked.
Yeah.
But $2.1 million is a lot of money.
All the money she's brought in over the years and the difference it's made, it's just fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, with that, that's all I have.
That's all you have. Any questions for us administrator? None? Are there any manager items?
I went to the county board meeting on the 3rd, and really was nothing too much on there that affected us any. They denied a $50 donation to the Blazing Star Trail because it is a state trail, but they couldn't turn around and give it to the trailer put out going up to Arlington. So, and the other one kind of that caught my eye was they decommitted $1 million for roads and bridges for this year. As they went in to talk about it, is the bids came in lower, a lot lower, so they did extra projects, but yet still were able to put back $1 million back into the coffers. So hopefully we can get our permit settled with the state, and hopefully maybe our bids will come in cheaper on bridges over the way. We'll wait and see. That's it.
Get her done. Any other manager items?
Few things I have is summer tour coming up for Minnesota watersheds up in Roseau for managers. Anybody else doing it?
I haven't heard anybody.
So that'll be coming up here. Minnesota watersheds got their resolutions in from watersheds around the state, and I believe there's 5 of them. Maybe 9, right in that, pretty much all of them had to do with DNR and permitting, so we're not alone in that boat. I attended the ISG tour over in, Farm. About an hour west of here. Just really interesting seeing other projects, seeing other ways of doing, wetland restorations and, riprap and stuff like that, so. It's an interesting, way to see other projects, so it's an interesting tour. That's all I've got.
Any other manager items? Our next board meeting is July 8th. Got it on the calendar. It'll be here before we know it. The summer will be over before we know it. We will go on to, adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By Manager Lee, do I have a second?
Okay.
Thanks, Manager Susie, you are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Question. If you hear any more back